The whispers of the collective unconscious are growing louder in 2026, pushing humanity towards a profound spiritual awakening. But how do you truly find your authentic purpose amidst this pivotal moment? We're diving deep into the Jungian map of meaning to show you how ancient wisdom isn't just theory, but a practical guide to unlocking profound selfhood in a rapidly changing world. Here, in the year 2026, humanity stands at a precipice. It is an age of unprecedented technological marvels, where the fabric of reality is woven with threads of data, and the external world unfolds like a glittering, complex circuit board. Below the towering megastructures, rivers of light pulse through transport tubes, and holographic advertisements, 100 stories tall, bloom and fade in the perpetual twilight. They promise solutions to every conceivable problem. Instant neural optimization, algorithmically guaranteed companionship, bespoke dream sequences delivered directly to the sleeping mind. The world has never been more connected, more efficient, more dazzlingly, breathtakingly advanced. And yet, a profound and cavernous sense of disconnection defines the human experience within this new reality. This is the central paradox of our time, an era of external technological omnipotence mirrored by an internal spiritual poverty. The human genome has been mapped, but the map to the human soul is lost. Instantaneous communication across the globe is effortless, yet the faint, persistent whisper from the depths of one's own being goes unheard. This is not a unique or isolated melancholy. It is a collective condition, an atmospheric pressure felt by all. It can be seen in the eyes of commuters on the maglev train, their faces illuminated by the pale blue light of neural interfaces, scrolling through the curated lives of others while their own unspools, unobserved. It is visible in the frantic pursuit of wellness trends, biohacking protocols, and microdosed enlightenment, each one a desperate attempt to patch a hole that is fundamentally spiritual in nature. A universal search is underway, a search for meaning, for a sense of purpose that feels real and enduring in a world that feels increasingly synthetic. Digital profiles are decorated with aspirational philosophies and carefully selected memories, crafting a public-facing self that is competent, happy, and whole. But privately, this curated image masks a labyrinth of anxiety, loneliness, and a quiet, gnawing sense of fraudulence. In the crushing silence after the day's final notification has been swiped away, a terrifying question arises. If one were to strip away the job, the digital persona, the societal expectations, who or what would actually be left? Before we venture deeper into this map, it is important to know if this condition resonates. In the comments below, simply write, "I hear the whisper," if you have ever felt that quiet call for something more, something deeper, amidst the noise of modern life. The epicenter of this modern spiritual crisis, the source of the tremor that destabilizes so many lives, is the chasm between the curated self and the authentic soul. The primary tool for creating this chasm is a psychological structure that Carl Jung called the persona. The persona, named after the masks worn by actors in ancient Greek theater, is the face shown to the world. It is a carefully engineered composite of societal expectations, cultural norms, and personal aspirations. It is the good student, the successful professional, the caring friend, the witty and informed individual. In the hyper-socialized world of 2026, the persona has become a work of high art, a masterpiece of social and digital engineering. This construct is articulate, perpetually optimistic, and effortlessly navigates the complex currents of the era. It has the right opinions on the latest geopolitical shifts, appreciates the most critically acclaimed neural art installations, and maintains a vast network of equally polished personas. This digital ghost, this curated collection of data points, is rewarded with validation in the form of social metrics, promotions, and invitations. For all intents and purposes, it is a successful entity. The problem is that it is not the whole person. The true self, the totality of the individual psyche that lives behind the eyes, is often a chaotic, repressed, and neglected entity. It is frequently paralyzed by a fear of failure, haunted by past mistakes, and filled with a profound loneliness that 1,000 digital friends cannot touch. It feels envy, resentment, and a deep, world-weary sadness that has no place in the bright, optimized world the persona inhabits. To live this way is to be the sole exhausted operator of a complex and beautiful machine designed for public display. All of an individual's psychic energy is funneled into its maintenance, polishing its exterior, updating its software, ensuring its performance is flawless. This leaves no energy for the operator, who is left starving, neglected, and slowly deteriorating in the dark, cramped control room of the inner world. The constant noise of modern life provides the perfect camouflage for this internal crisis. The ceaseless stream of information, the endless feed of content, the societal pressure to be constantly growing, optimizing, and producing it all serves as a glorious, deafening distraction from the silent scream of the soul. The system itself, which profits from this dissatisfaction, sells cures that are merely more sophisticated versions of the disease. If you feel empty, you need a better job, a more advanced neural link, a more exciting partner, a more exotic vacation to broadcast. The spiritual crossroads of our time is precisely this: the moment of realization that no amount of external validation can fill an internal void. It is the horrifying, liberating discovery that the map given by society leads not to fulfillment, but only to more consumption, more performance, and more distraction. This duality, this profound sense of inauthenticity, is a soul sickness, and it pushes the individual toward a breaking point, either a complete collapse or, with sufficient courage, a radical transformation. When the energy required to maintain the persona runs out, a state of apathy and withdrawal often ensues. The glittering world feels like a mockery, and the digital realm becomes a cage. It is in this state of quiet desperation that a new path can be revealed. The works of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung offer not another 5-step plan to happiness, but something far more valuable: a map. A map of the inner world, the vast and uncharted wilderness of the human psyche. Jung was a cartographer of the soul, and his writings are a guide to this territory. The first and most critical landmark on this map, standing at the very threshold of the journey, is the shadow. The shadow is the archetype of all that has been repressed and disowned within the personality. It is the repository of every impulse, desire, and trait deemed unacceptable, shameful, or evil by the conscious mind and the surrounding culture. For the meticulously crafted persona, the shadow is a vast and terrifying continent. It contains the individual's anger, which has been suppressed in favor of a mask of pleasant agreeability. It holds the envy of others' successes, hidden beneath a veneer of manufactured supportiveness. It is home to laziness, fear, insecurity, and selfishness, every characteristic that does not fit the heroic narrative of the public self. Mainstream culture, upbringing, and the conscious ego itself all teach one to fight this shadow, to deny its existence, to push it deeper into the unconscious. This, Jung argued, is a catastrophic error. To deny the shadow is to sever oneself from a massive source of psychic energy and vitality. That energy does not simply vanish. It turns negative and destructive. It festers in the darkness of the unconscious. It manifests as projection, where one begins to see their own disowned flaws everywhere in colleagues, partners, and political enemies, hating in others what is secretly hated in the self. It erupts in moments of inexplicable rage, acts of self-sabotage, or periods of crippling depression. With this understanding, the chaotic patterns of a life can begin to make a terrifying kind of sense. The sudden bitter arguments with loved ones, the moments of intense and irrational judgment toward others, the pervasive feeling of being a fraud, all can be seen as the work of an unacknowledged shadow banging on the basement door of the psyche, demanding to be seen. The first step on this new path, therefore, is not to defeat the shadow, but to turn and face it. This is the work of shadow integration. It requires looking with unflinching honesty at the parts of the self that are most despised. It involves the discipline of self-observation, of noticing petty thoughts and shameful feelings without immediate judgment. It means sitting with envy and asking what it reveals about one's own unfulfilled desires. It demands an examination of anger to discover the deep well of grief or the fierce, neglected passion for justice that lies beneath it. This work is excruciating. It can feel like admitting to being a monster. Yet, as Jung promised, a strange alchemy occurs. The more these dark aspects are brought into conscious awareness, the less compulsive power they hold. By consciously acknowledging anger, its energy can be harnessed constructively, perhaps to set a long overdue boundary rather than letting it explode destructively. By admitting envy, it can be transformed from a poison into a signpost, pointing toward one's own dormant ambitions. The shadow, it is discovered, is not a monster to be slain. It is a wounded, disowned part of the whole, a chained and vital force that holds the key to liberation. It is full of life, of raw, untamed energy. Integrating the shadow is not about becoming good in a conventional sense. It is about becoming whole. It is the first, terrifying, and absolutely essential step in reclaiming the lost territories of the soul and learning to read the map that can finally lead to an authentic life. The integration of the shadow is the initial descent, the clearing of the overgrown threshold into the psyche's deeper realms. Beyond it lies the heart of the labyrinth, where the core patterns of life are forged. Jung identified this domain as the sphere of the anima and animus, the unconscious archetypal representations of the contrasexual energies within each person. For a man, the key is the anima, the inner feminine. For a woman, it is the animus, the inner masculine. This is not about modern gender identity, but about primal, symbolic forces that shape perception, creativity, and most profoundly, relational dynamics. For an individual whose inner life is largely unconscious, this figure is projected outward. A person is not seen for who they are. They become a screen upon which the movie of one's own unlived soul is played. For a man with a neglected, undeveloped anima, she may manifest as a chaotic blend of idealized savior and devouring witch. This leads to patterns of infatuation that feel like divine encounters. He places a woman on an impossible pedestal, believing she holds the key to his happiness, that her love will be the thing to finally make him feel whole. This is the savior projection. But when, inevitably, she reveals herself to be a complex, flawed human being with her own needs and shadows, his unconscious flips the script. The savior becomes the witch. He feels betrayed, disillusioned, and angry, accusing her of failing to live up to a promise she never made. A similar dynamic occurs for a woman projecting her animus, who may see in a man an idealized hero, a figure of absolute authority and power, only to be later disillusioned by his human fallibility. This pattern defines countless failed relationships, leaving a trail of confusion and heartbreak. The devastating realization is that a life lived in projection is a life lived without true connection. One has never truly met another person, but has only been in a relationship with a ghost from one's own psyche. Confronting this reality often precipitates a dark night of the soul. It is a period of intense, painful solitude, where the work is to consciously withdraw the projections. One must stop looking for another person to complete them, and instead turn inward to face the inner figure directly. This means engaging with the parts of the psyche that have been coded as other and therefore suppressed. For the man, his vulnerability, his capacity for nurturing his intuition. For the woman, her assertiveness, her logical capabilities, her independent will. This process feels like a death. The old romantic fantasies, the powerful charge of infatuation, the entire framework through which love and connection were understood, it must all be allowed to dissolve. In its place, for a time, there is a void. This is the peak of the struggle, the crucible of transformation. It is in this emptiness, when the temptation to retreat to old patterns is at its strongest, that true integration can occur. It is not a flash of light, but a slow, quiet, tectonic shift. It is the moment one stops seeing the shadow as bad, the anima animus as a problem, and the persona as false. One begins to see them all as essential components of a single, complex, and magnificent whole. The shadow's energy is the fuel for passion. The anima animus's sensitivity is the source of creativity and empathy. The persona is a necessary tool for social navigation, a tool that can be picked up and put down at will, not a mask fused to the face. In this profound moment of acceptance, the inner war ceases. The psyche is not fixed or perfected, but it is, for the first time, whole. This marks the birth of what Jung calls the self, the regulating center of the psyche, the union of conscious and unconscious, the true imago Dei within. The dragon and the siren have been confronted, not to be slain, but to be recognized and embraced as part of the totality. In doing so, the center of one's own map is finally found. Emerging from this profound integration is not like waking into a perfect reality. It is akin to waking from a lifelong slumber into the real world for the very first time. The external world remains unchanged, the holographic ads still flicker. Societal pressures persist, the digital noise is as loud as ever. But the inner landscape has been fundamentally reformed. The desperate, frantic search for something external for validation, for completion, for a grand cinematic purpose has ceased. It is replaced by a quiet, grounded sense of presence. This resolution is not a singular event, but a new way of being that unfolds daily, a process Jung termed individuation. It is the lifelong journey of becoming more and more one's authentic self, of living in conscious relationship with the vast, mysterious totality of one's own psyche. The most immediate and tangible change manifests in relationships. When one meets people from a place of wholeness, it becomes possible to see them without the blinding fog of projection. Their unique complexities, their own light and shadow, can be appreciated without the need for them to be a savior or the fear that they will become a villain. Connections become less frantic and more authentic. Friendships deepen. Support can be offered that is genuine, not transactional, and it can be received with an open heart because one's own vulnerability is no longer a source of terror. True intimacy reveals itself not as two halves making a whole, but as two whole individuals choosing to walk their separate but parallel paths together, honoring each other's sovereign journey. Professional life is also transformed. The hollow ambition driven by a need for external validation recedes. A sense of self-worth is no longer derived from a job title or productivity metrics. This does not lead to apathy, but to the discovery of a new wellspring of creativity. By being in dialogue with the shadow and the anima animus, one reconnects with the parts of the self that are playful, intuitive, and genuinely innovative. New projects may be undertaken, not for monetization or public acclaim, but as acts of pure expression, bringing a satisfaction more profound than any external reward. This is the new meaning of purpose. It is not a single, monolithic goal to be achieved. It is found in the very act of living authentically, day by day. Purpose is discovered in a moment of honest conversation, in the courage to set a boundary, in the discipline of a creative practice, in the simple act of listening to one's inner state and honoring what it reveals. The Jungian map does not lead to a treasure chest at an X. It becomes an internal compass. When faced with confusion, one now has the tools to look inward to ask, is the shadow being activated? Is a projection coloring this situation? What is intuition, the voice of the integrated self, trying to communicate? Life ceases to be a problem to be solved and becomes a mystery to be lived. Anxiety does not vanish, but it no longer holds a central commanding position. It becomes one voice among many in the rich, complex parliament of the psyche. The inner silence is no longer a terrifying void, but a nourishing quiet, filled with the gentle hum of a self in dialogue with itself. Reflecting on this path, from the fragmented state of modern consciousness to the integrated wholeness of the individuated person, it becomes clear that the spiritual crossroads of 2026 is not a collective event to be passively witnessed. It is an individual choice, a personal crisis and opportunity that presents itself to each person in the quietest moments of life. It is the choice between continuing to invest all psychic energy in the external, curated persona, or daring to turn inward and embark on the perilous, rewarding journey into the wilderness of the soul. The wisdom of Carl Jung, so deeply resonant in our time, is ultimately a rediscovery of a truth known to mystics and sages for millennia. The kingdom of heaven is within. The answers are not out there in the noise, in the next upgrade, the next trend, the next relationship. They are in the deep, often dark, and profoundly beautiful landscape of the unconscious. This map, this Jungian framework, is not a dogma to be believed. It is a tool to be used. Its signposts, the persona, the shadow, the anima animus, the self, are there to help you navigate your own unique inner territory. Each individual's shadow is unique. Each path of integration is entirely personal. The goal is not to become a Jungian, but to become yourself, a complete, authentic, and therefore more compassionate and effective human being. This work is never finished. Individuation is not a destination at which one arrives, but the path itself. There will be new descents into darkness, new challenges, new parts of the self that demand to be seen and integrated. The map does not eliminate the difficult terrain. It provides the confidence to traverse it, with the knowledge that even the most terrifying monsters in the dark are parts of the whole, and that hidden within them is a treasure of incalculable worth, wholeness. In a world that is accelerating towards ever greater external complexity, the most radical, most necessary act of rebellion is the cultivation of internal depth. It is to build a foundation of self-knowledge so strong that the chaotic winds of change cannot shake it. It is to find a sense of purpose so deeply rooted in one's own authentic being that no external failure or success can define it. The journey is not easy. It demands courage, honesty, and a willingness to sit in uncomfortable truths. But it is the only journey that truly matters. It is the journey back to the self, and it is the key to navigating not just the crossroads of 2026, but the entire precious, mysterious experience of being alive. This journey of individuation is a path best walked in community. If you are ready to begin exploring your own map, subscribe and join our nascent community of inner explorers. In our next series, we will delve deeper into the practical steps of shadow work. Your journey starts now.